as Congress prepares to return next week. And just last night, the president approved the deployment of an additional 350 troops to Iraq to protect U.S. personnel and facilities, bringing the total to more than 1,100 troops in country. The White House says those troops will not serve in a combat role. Joining me now is the Republican representative from Florida's 17th District, Congressman Tom Rooney, who also sits on the Armed Services Committee and the Intelligence Committee. Congressman Rooney, thanks so much for being on the program.
Thanks, Luke. Thanks for having me.
You obviously heard from the president today saying that they would like to manage the threat of ISIS. From where you stand on those two committees, and you're also a veteran, what would you see as a coherent United States strategy in confronting ISIS right now?
Well, that remark is, unfortunate, just like the remark last week about not really having a strategy. Certainly, I think the president, I would like to think, would use different words, because I guarantee you that ISIS is not going to get, their goals to a manageable number before they're happy. So I think that the strategy, to answer your question, has to be what some of us have been talking about, and that's to try using the NATO summit here tomorrow to rally support, to continue to put ISIS on the defensive, even more so, and use whatever means necessary to stop a threat if the intelligence is true that this is truly a national security threat to us here, then to do whatever it takes to stop that, because people are living in fear.
The president has authorized over 350 more troops last night. That brings the total number up to about 1,100. There have been calls on both sides for the president to go to Congress to seek authority to legally move into Syria or to get legal authority for an expanded operation against ISIS. Do you think that needs to happen, and where do you fall on that?
I think it's a smart idea for him to come to Congress and get the people's representatives on board so that there's never an issue of funding or anything like that. It's just smart politically and tactically for him to get the Congress behind him, and I don't think that he'd have a big problem doing that. Now, if he didn't, he probably, under his Article 2 powers, could move forward with these airstrikes for a while, because the courts have been reticent to get in the middle of a congressional/administrative dispute over war powers. But certainly, I think that, we are going to have to continue to fight ISIS in Iraq, and then probably eventually are going to have to get them in Syria as well. And to do that, I do believe a new authorization is the right way to go for the president, and I think he'd get it. I hope he doesn't look down upon us as he's been doing so over the last several years and say that I don't need them, or we're sort of the redheaded stepchild, and actually use us for his own goals, I hope.
To fight ISIS in Iraq and Syria, do you think the U.S. needs ground troops?
We might. I mean, we very well might, and that's what we do as a military. I mean, our job is to fight and win this country's wars, and if there's a national security threat to this country, we will do that. Our job is to make sure that we preserve freedom and liberty here at home, and if that is jeopardized, our goal is to go and fight and beat the people that are harming us or potentially going to harm us. So the military will do what it's told, and it might need to do that in Syria. I don't think that we're there yet, but at some point that could be the case, and we should never take anything off the table. I don't know what goal that has, aside from still appeasing to this political promise you made when you were saying that we were going to get us out of Iraq and we were going to end wars. Well, guess what? Life happened, and it might be time to go back in there and go into Syria in the future. If that's what it takes to keep us safe, that's what we got to do.
Do you think there's the support within the country for an elongated American commitment of ground troops and artillery and perhaps blood and treasure in Iraq and Syria again?
Look, nobody believes that the country is war-weary more than me and more than people that have worn the uniform. In fact, I was the one that tried to lead the fight against going into Syria against Assad, because it was a foreign country, a foreign leader/dictator. This is different. This is terrorism. This poses a threat to us. This, I think, under former authorizations from Congress, fits the mold as far as what we're, protecting ourselves against. But no, nobody wants to go back to war.
Right.
But what we have to figure out is, if there is a threat to our liberty and people our fear for their freedoms, then we have to do something about that. And if we don't, then we have neglected our job as leaders of this country. And that starts with the president as commander-in-chief.
Something to keep an eye on, certainly, as you guys come back from recess next week. Tom Rooney, already in D.C., congressman from Florida. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Luke.
Joining me now is senior